Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michele Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey for the last few years. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justice Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, for the contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist. I'll just say that again. The artist behind our logos here at the Outer Realm. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the Halloween genre, horror genre, but does great commission of all types. Tonight, of course, it's always fun when you have a friend on and fellow host here on the network of the Light Gate. We all love him. Preston Dennett. He's here talking about UFOs over the Arctic, stories and different accounts. So you know it's going to be good. So let's all say a big hello to Preston. Hello.
Hi, Michelle. Yeah.
Hey. I've been looking forward to this after we spun off of, the Antarctic and you threw in a couple of Arctic stories. I'm like, oh, gosh, it's a gift that keeps on giving you are.
Yeah, I was always curious about it. So I learned so much. You wouldn't think there's always more to learn, but every time you think you know what's going on, no, you don't.
No, it's like a constant state of evolution, and people now know you even more. So you find you just keep getting like droves of people coming your way with, incredible sightings and such as well.
Oh, yeah. It's nonsense. I can't even keep up now. And I just want to use this as an opportunity to apologize to people who have emailed me and are still waiting.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding when I say I'm about 500 emails behind.
Wow. I love it, though.
It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, but you can just imagine what's in those emails.
Yeah. Well, I take a quick look, and if they're really good ones, I don't want to just breeze through it and send them a quick, answer. I want to take the time to really dig in and.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I mean, I can't say I've had 500 emails I have to get back to, but God, it's a good 100 or so, which has been pretty consistent. And after a while, I've had people say, you should let me answer for you. I'm just like, no, I don't feel right. I don't feel right about it. Right.
Yeah, me too.
It takes time and stuff, but I mean, at least it's just such a personal thing when someone reaches out to you for help or for a story or something like that. And I just don't want people to be passed off. That's just me. Right. So
passed off or pissed off.
Yeah, especially it gets ugly, but so I put up a lot of the hellos and such, and we're sharing a platform because Preston's on his platform as well. So I can't go through it all. There's a million people in here tonight, but I will keep flashing things up across. And big happy birthday tomorrow.
Yes,
Michael Kennedy. Oh. Yes, we saw that. And Dolly's just totally putting it out there.
Happy Incarnation Day is how someone put it to me. Oh, I like that. I'm going to remember that. So, happy Incarnation Day, Michael.
There we go. Perfect. So where do we want to start? I mean, I say just get up and go because you always have like a whole pile of good stories and we always run out of time.
All right, hold on a second. I need my pen.
Oh,
Let me get my Arctic coat on.
the Arctic coat. Woo, it's going to be
I'm ready.
serious now.
Okay.
When the coat comes out, you know it's going to be good. I love it. Woohoo.
All right. You ready?
Outstanding. There we go. Okay.
Okay,
I
wait.
love it.
I'm
I love
already
it.
hot.
No, this is great.
Sorry, that's too much.
What? Off already?
I'm starting to sweat.
No, that's
I always
good.
get hot when I do these shows. I don't know why.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay.
I love it. I say
I'm
go
just having
crazy.
You know me, I can't resist having a little fun.
We always have fun when you're on. And as always, if you see something of interest and coming up in the chat rolling by, just snag it. They're coming
I'll
in
do
hot and
my
heavy.
best.
Okay.
Okay. Well, before I get into the cases, I just want to give people a little rundown about the Arctic,
Yes.
because we all know what it is, the North Pole and so forth.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I chose cases that are anywhere within the Arctic Circle, what
Yeah.
we would consider Arctic territory, which is actually pretty big. Let's see, 7.7 million square miles.
Wow.
That's a lot of territory.
Yeah.
Now, this kind of surprised me. There's only 8 countries that are within the Arctic Circle. I don't know what I was expecting, but that's not very many.
It's not on the grand scheme of things. No, not really.
No, and I was kind of surprised to hear Russia. We know, of course, Finland,
Yes.
Sweden, and Norway. Really, more than just about anybody. Canada does have a little piece here and there.
Yeah. Yes.
The U.S. too managed to snag it with Alaska, a tiny portion.
Toe in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Greenland is almost half, I think, within the Arctic Circle.
Wow.
Greenland's a weird place. It's all the cities are widely spaced. It's really unusual.
But that's a great place for crafts to come in and
got some really cool cases there. And of
Good.
course, a small part of Iceland, which is actually, greener than Greenland. Iceland, their names are switched. That was actually historically done on purpose.
Yeah.
They wanted to attract people to Greenland, so they called it Greenland when really it's covered with ice.
Yeah, it's just so obscure. But was it always?
Well,
maybe it was lush and green at one time. I know, but I know.
So yeah, the Arctic has an average winter temperature of, let's see, minus 30 degrees. That's Fahrenheit. I don't know Celsius that well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's like, I think minus 30.
I'm not quite sure what that would be either. Anybody chime in? Because I was never really good at math or science.
But it can get as cold as minus 76 degrees.
Oh.
So, that's.
I can't imagine. That's not even humane.
No, it's just mean.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
So, of course, it's got the Aurora Borealis, which is really beautiful. Compasses go crazy up there because,
Yeah.
if you actually go to the North Pole, forget it. The compass is not going to really work. It'll just spin.
Right. Kat says when it's minus 40.
All right. Yeah, I knew it was close to it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kat.
And we talked about this in terms of the Antarctic. What are these warm lakes, which they don't fully understand, called polynyas, which is really interesting because, basically they should be frozen. They're not sure why. It's geothermic, clearly. And that's got to be the natural explanation, but they're not fully understood. I didn't really dig into the whole Admiral Byrd stuff because it's just a mess. I mean, that would take, it really is. Try to pick out what is true about him. So I was concentrating mostly on really well-vetted accounts.
You're right. Yeah.
But what I did find was, not just sightings, but landings. Apparently one UFO crash, which is really interesting. And also quite a few humanoid accounts. I'm still doing the research on this. I've got, I finally got all the cities located that are within the Arctic Circle, and there's quite a few.
Yes. Do you think it's just because it's so desolate up there? So, you just, they feel maybe a little safer, or
I don't
Figure
know.
they
I
can go
haven't lived there.
unnoticed.
I mean,
Yeah.
people have lived there for thousands of years. You know,
Mm.
the Russian
Mhm.
indigenous population,
Yes,
as they call it.
yes.
You know, like,
But the indigenous were never weird about it like we are today. But I think it's conditioning. Like we're so conditioned now, to look at these things like anomalies. I think it was more commonplace in ancient times when you're looking at all the ancient monuments and all of the, the petroglyphs and hieroglyphs and
yeah.
like I was going to say picolage, but I think you know where I'm going with it. Graphs and so I don't know. I think that now we're just conditioned to think, oh no, nothing good comes out of this, and you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
there's definitely a cover up of events going on in the Arctic and the
Mhm.
Antarctic. We know this. It's a cover up all over the world. Who are we
Yes.
kidding?
Yeah.
But in particular, I think there's quite a few I would say the vast majority of events that go on there are
Yeah.
covered up and probably not even observed by human eyes.
Yes. Yes.
You
It's
know what I mean?
true.
Because there's nobody up there.
I
In
know.
fact,
It's all the best stuff.
I was just researching how many people are actually within the Arctic Circle. And when you consider that we have over 8 billion people on this planet, it's almost nothing. Let's see, 4 million people
Mhm.
live in the Arctic. And it's mostly in, a handful of cities there that are fairly large.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's an interesting place. I mean, the sun does not set one day of the year. One day of the year, it's completely dark. The solstice, of course.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I don't want to live there. It's too cold. I like strawberries and peaches, and
That's it.
I
Well, Tamaris is a penguins know everything. Got to put little cams on their heads. Just see.
I love penguins.
Oh, I do too. They're so cute. So,
And it doesn't support a whole lot of wildlife up there. Polar bears, of course,
mhm,
but
mhm.
Arctic foxes, and there are some wildlife, but gosh,
Yeah,
not like most
it's
places.
limited. Yes. So, out of all the places up there, where do the most stories come from?
Oh gosh, they're spread around pretty much. I would say mostly from Greenland, because there's a military base up there, which was formerly called Thule.
Mm-hmm.
Which I forget what it's called. Someone in chat might be able to figure that out. It's a funny name, almost
Yes.
insulting if you pronounce it wrong.
Right. Of course it is. I'd be the one to totally butcher it too.
It's like, that's not how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
You're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Usually, in of course populated areas.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I've got some that are. I mean, one like right at the North Pole, which I'll get to. It's probably my favorite in the whole bunch.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah, I want to do this kind of chronologically.
Oh, you take it. You take it. We're gonna follow along, and I'll throw my 2 cents worth every now and then. But
it's just easier for me because I've got my notes. I just cannot memorize everything these days.
No, that's tough. It's tough to do. It's information overload, right? So, no, okay, you go wherever you want to start. I'll keep up. I promise.
All right. Well, I want to start in 1850.
Oh,
because I found I'm always interested in the historical accounts.
Yes.
Well, before this can't be reverse engineered.
No.
Military tech, right?
Yeah,
not
exactly.
a chance.
Exactly.
But this is really interesting because there was this ship called the Franklin, and it disappeared. And people started sending. It was in search of the Northwest Passage, and never came back. And they never found it for the longest time. They sent ships up after it, couldn't find it. Finally, one of the expeditions that went up there was the USS Grinnell. They were hoping to find it. They, of course, didn't find it.
Wow.
They finally did find the ship, but at any rate, they had the first recorded sighting that I could find in the Arctic. And it's a first-hand testimony from one of the crew members, Elijah Kent Kane. And he described how they all saw this, quote, large spheroidal mass floating in the air at an unknown distance to the north. It was undulating over the Wellington Channel, and after a little while, they saw another one. So it was going against the wind. It stayed there for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Very large. They tried to think, well, maybe it's a kite, thinking that the people lost up there are flying a kite. Of course, that was disregarded when who's going to be flying a kite?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they're like, could it be a balloon? No, that was rejected either. Also, so this was the first one. It's a relatively simple sighting.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting to me because this is 1850.
And it was documented.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So the early events are kind of like that. There was one in 1912 from the Russian ship, the Saint Anna.
Yeah. Yes.
Which became icebound. I don't know. These people are crazy. Can you imagine being on a ship that becomes icebound?
No, I can't even imagine like the way they would do that in like 1850. Like you're not getting out of that.
No, they don't. I ended up buying this book called In the Land of White Death because I love survival stories. And this ship became icebound, and they're like, okay, we're obviously not getting out of here. They were there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And still not getting out. So a group of men decided, you know what? We're going to hike out. And the captain was like, you go. More food for us.
Yes. Yes.
One lady was on the ship. She did not go with him. So these 10 guys leave. They never saw those people again. They're gone forever. So these 10 guys are hiking across the Arctic, and one by one, they're passing away.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't even be dressed for it back then either, would you? Not knowing what to expect.
No, they didn't have the, Gore-Tex.
Yeah, they didn't have a coat like yours, that's for sure. So,
no.
Yeah.
Poor
No.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was actually a pretty interesting adventure story. Grim, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got the will to survive, you can survive. And 2 guys did.
Mm-hmm.
They were the last 2 guys surviving had little kayaks, that they were dragging along the ice because you reach these watery places where you can't hike.
Right.
And they saw this kind of red, huge glowing object in the sky just hovering there. And there's nothing that you can explain this in terms of a natural phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not a satellite. It wasn't a meteor. It's not Mars.
Mm-hmm. And what year was this one again? What year?
This was 1912.
1912. Wow. Yes, that was like the Titanic time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So
that's kind of an interesting case.
Very interesting. Yeah. Nikki says, so 2 guys survived. So I guess that, they're your eyewitnesses. But again, like the fact that you come out of that and think to document it after going through,
I know, it's so sad. All the people in that ship, like waiting for help, and never comes, and you never see them again. They've never found that ship. The Arctic just eats ships up.
It does. Yeah. It just breaks them up and swallows it, Yeah. Very, very sad. Very sad.
Very sad, but interesting because he ended up writing a book about it, and actually went back to sea again. I'm like, you crazy. I would not.
That would be it for me. That would be it for me, So it kind of reminds you of Molly Brown from the Titanic, right? Who like goes down with the Titanic and goes down with the ship again after that. And then still sailed after having 2 ships go down. I would take that a little personal. If I was on 2 ships that both sunk, I was kind of like, I don't think I'm ever going to be on a freaking ship again. So, but
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, for sure. So,
okay.
All right.
I want to go to the next story. I think I'm going to pop this up on the screen.
Ooh, beautiful.
A vanished Eskimo tribe gives North mystery stranger than fiction.
Yes.
Now, this is actually a really famous incident.
Yes.
Which I started looking into because, of course, this is in the Arctic.
Yes.
And there was so much written on this. I mean, there's so many people who've talked about this. And I started tracing it to the original article, which is this.
Yeah.
Because some of these some of the coverage of this is so off the charts, exaggerated. Like,
I
this is
know.
a village with 1,000 people. No,
I know.
there was just 25 people.
I know they made it just seem so much worse than it is, but it's
But
bad enough. Yeah, gone.
but this is interesting because it comes from this trapper who you can see here.
Yeah.
Right here. I can't really. Can I blow that up? Yes, I can.
Yeah, I think so.
There we go.
There we go.
There he is.
Yeah.
His name is Joe LaBelle.
Yes.
And so this does seem to be a legit story. This guy did exist, I should say. And he's really the only source for it. So I don't know.
It's one of Canada's biggest mysteries when it comes to, like early mysteries.
Oh, you've heard of it then?
Oh, yeah. But a lot of people haven't.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because there are vanished cultures throughout our planet.
Yes.
That just picked up and left. No one knows where they went.
No, because everything was still cooking. Like, and the dogs, they had dogs there that were like they were just like they were dead, but yet there's things cooking. Like there's no way they would look like they had been gone for like days and days, but yet they're not. There were buried bodies, yet the graves are all disturbed.
Yeah, you know it,
and stuff, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. He worked with these villagers, trading with them. He was a fur trapper.
Yes.
And went up there and was immediately puzzled because there's still food on the stove. The tables are set to eat. You didn't see any tracks going in or out. There was one grave disinterred.
Yes.
Which was weird. So and who does that? And the dogs have been tied up and perished, very sadly.
Yes.
So he ended up calling the Northwest Mounted Police, and they did this whole investigation. He questioned neighboring villages. None of them had any information.
Didn't one of the villages claim that they saw lights over top of this village? Okay, good. I thought I read that, but I couldn't remember.
That's not in the original article, though.
Okay.
So there's some question about that.
Yeah, came afterwards.
But, so, I mean, reportedly there's quite a few reports of that.
Yes. It doesn't sound like people who go missing at sea, like the Bermuda Triangle type, because there's triangles all over the world. It's not just Bermuda
the Alaska Triangle, the Great Lakes Triangle.
Yeah, Michigan Triangle, Dragon Triangle, Eastern Canada. But that's the same story. Sometimes they'll find a vessel with no people, but yet food still sitting on the plates. And so do you have thoughts on that? Like, is that something like that happens here? But does this come up in any of your research with people or, the articles that you have found pertaining to your UFO research?
I can't tie it directly to UFOs, but I do know about the ghost ships and stuff where they go up and there's nobody on it. And I'm thinking, well, did they get food poisoning and all go crazy? You'd think there'd be some evidence of that. Yes. Everyone has theories about this.
Yes.
And, there was some Native American villages that just disappeared off the face of the planet.
Yes. But there are some that disappear. What I find interesting is that you have, in this case, dogs that look like they have been dead for a really long time, like days, but yet, and one grave that has been completely opened up. There's still stuff like cooking, like
that's insane.
It is. That's beyond just a relocating tribe, for example.
The circumstantial evidence says that whatever happened, it happened quickly. Yes. They had to get out of there fast.
Yes.
And I mean, what would do that? You take your dog. It doesn't take long to take a dog.
Well, the dogs are, they're sled dogs. Besides that, that's what's going to get you out of there fast.
Yeah. And they love their dogs. So
they do.
Yeah. It's an odd story. But it was intriguing because there's another thing that kept coming up, which I didn't really get into, but little people. This reports of little people.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is another can of worms. This is a completely different whole thing. Because I was trying to define it to just confine it to what's overtly extraterrestrial.
Right.
But no, there's little people I'll call them crypto-terrestrials if you want.
Sure, let's go with
Beings.
that. Yeah, I mean, folklore, they're in all the indigenous folklore.
Yeah, and Eskimos. Well, I heard that's not really a political correct word. I've been chided for the Inuit. They prefer.
Inuit, yes.
So I'll
Up
go
there
with
they
that.
do. Yes.
So that seems fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
So
certainly an interesting story.
it's interesting because when you factor in that, on an average ET, so many people have had, well, there's mixed stories, but a lot of people have come forward and with very positive stories. So did they just hightail them out of there because something was coming down, or was it something like a time slip? How many time slips happen, and some people just don't find their way back? Do you remember? I think we talked about this one time on a time slip with a show that you were doing here with me, and I had mentioned about that woman who woke up the one day and she was dressed in her pajamas, and her apartment looked the same, but it didn't. But her fiance and his daughter, there was no trace of them anywhere. A guy she was engaged to for 7 years and she was a stepmother to, and there was a reward out for anybody who could try to get her back to her timeline. So could it maybe have been something like that? People just like disappeared
Well,
in a whole other
suddenly,
timeline, multiverse.
suddenly
Yeah,
20,
see.
20, 30 Inuit suddenly appear.
I know, out of
You're
nowhere.
like, what? What?
I know.
Well,
I
no,
know.
I don't know. It
See,
seems
it's
logical that
crazy.
they were taken somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know the cultures are very tight-lipped to outsiders
Mm-hmm.
up there, and they don't really like to talk to people about their personal stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's true.
But I don't know. I'd love to know. I'd
Yeah.
really love to know.
Yeah. Keep
One of
digging.
those enduring mysteries that I don't know if we'll ever get
Yeah,
an
but
answer to.
maybe they'll surface. Maybe they'll surface some, in another decade, or like if it's a time, so the time is different. We put constructs on our time.
Yeah.
Like
Well, there weren't footprints going anywhere, and he's a trapper. He would have seen them.
Yeah, see? Yeah, that's right. So it's a full on somehow.
And people have tried to debunk it unsuccessfully, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely
Yeah.
exaggerated in later accounts.
Yes.
There you go.
Astral Taurus. Wow, so many timelines in the astral. Never heard of someone actually disappearing into one and not returning. Well, I think you hear stories about that, and again, the triangles. And triangles can be in the mountains too. Like they're not just in the water.
Where was he? In the north, the northeast somewhere. I don't know, Minnesota, somewhere around there. He disappeared for like 20 years, and then they found him. He has no memory. This is a legit case too. He's a real guy.
Yeah.
He has no memory of what happened to him. He was gone for a long time.
Well, look at in the Romania Triangle, which is in the haunted forest. That they call that their Bermuda Triangle, and a shepherd, all of his flock went missing. Then after that, a little girl went missing who was 5 years old. She came back 5 years later, still 5 years old, but just it's no memory, but not functional either.
Oh wow. Yeah, there's weird things that we don't fully understand, I think.
Yeah.
The whole missing 411 thing is intriguing, but
well, there's a question about that for you. So right here, question for Preston. Does Preston think that there's a link between the missing 411 phenomenon and the UAP phenomenon?
I know that, David Paulides has put forth some cases.
Yeah.
But the problem is, unless someone actually sees that person getting pulled on board,
you don't know.
You can't say that this person was taken.
Yeah.
It could have been anything. It could have been nefarious agents from our own planet, because people get kidnapped for all kinds of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Falls can happen very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And, animal attacks.
Mm-hmm.
There can be
I like the portal ones too.
So I don't know. I do have some cases where people have gone to live with the ETs.
Yeah.
Fairly well authenticated.
Yeah.
I think we can't discount this as a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I would say there's being kidnapped against their will, but
yes,
I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, there was the case over Lake Superior where Felix Moncla was sent out to vector a UFO. The blips merged. The UFO flew off, and we never saw Felix Moncla again, or his
bye-bye.
navigator. So
they just
So,
I don't know. How many people are thinking like, oh, I wish you two would come and get me. Got to get out in the open water, apparently, or on a mountaintop. You know, they can maybe improve your chances. But you hear about stories like that, like the Mayan, right?
Yeah.
The Mayan.
Well, I did interview one lady from Maine, and the ETs told her all kinds of stuff. They were giving her kind of predictions, like, oh, there's a huge earthquake, the Madras Fault, what's it called? It runs down the U.S. At some point, we'll go, and told her that Hurricane Katrina was nothing compared to what's coming, which of course turned out to be true.
That's right.
But told her that if people should start disappearing from this planet, it's being done by us for the universal good. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So we're up some.
Yes. Well, I don't know. The stories that are coming up, and looking into the ancient past, seems to be cycles as well. Certain areas seem to be reoccurring.
There's a lot of disappearing people.
Yeah.
It happens a lot more than people know. So,
but then how many do you get that, where you have bases nearby? And then people just go.
Military bases, you mean?
You betcha. I wasn't going to say it. you do it, Preston.
Oh, thanks, Michele. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Looking out for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that goes on. We've got enough reports of that.
Yes.
So, unfortunate, sad, a shame.
Yes.
Humanity needs to grow up. It's time.
Babies have to learn how to play nice in a sandbox, and I think it's just not working out the way it should be. So all
right, so let's move on to the next case, unless you got a question.
No, you go.
Okay. This one kind of gave me chills. This was a really good one. This occurred they didn't give the exact date. If anyone's going to report a UFO, come on, give us the exact date. But we know it was during World War II.
Need the info. Yeah.
I appreciate it. But this does come from a naval historian who's very well respected, William Schofield, who wrote this book called Eastward the Convoys, which he's a Navy guy. He loves everything about ships in the Navy, and had a chapter in this book called Weird and Unknown. And this is not well known. This is a really early sighting. I'm guessing it's around 1943 or so.
Yes.
But there was this 4-ship convoy whose job was to patrol near the Arctic Circle, right? Looking out for enemies, so to speak. And it was a March evening just after midnight. So, this is a convoy, 4 ships. And suddenly there were these 4 identical balls of light hovering, one over pretty much each ship, and one way the heck up there. Cold, white, didn't glisten, sparkle, or gleam, they said, just hung there, these pale white globes. But clearly, not stars or anything, these were pretty big. The guy who made this report was on the bridge, wearing battle phones, and heard all the lookout gunners started talking about it. So they had their guns trained on them just in case, because this is the military. They're ready for war. They're at wartime. So from a military mindset, you can understand that. Thank God, they kept calm, cool heads, didn't shoot at them. Probably not a good idea to shoot at a UFO.
No.
But these things just stayed there. They could not say how long, how big these things were. But it clearly wasn't St. Elmo's fire.
Right.
Now, St. Elmo's fire, for those who don't know, is kind of like a ball lightning phenomena, because the masts on ships or anything sticking up can develop high amounts of static electricity, which causes a weird lightning type phenomena. But it's generally brief, and they'll flit around and off they go. So this wasn't that.
Yeah.
Now, they became concerned, so the captain of the lead ship orders a course change, hoping to escape these lights. But no, stayed right along with them, maintaining their speed, never wavering from their fixed locations. And all the other ships were radioing like, what are these lights? Do you know what these are?
Yeah.
Captain's like, no, we don't know. Hold formation, regard as friendly. So that, kudos to the captain for just
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah. Wow. This is good. It's
Yeah.
inspiring, right?
So they stayed there for, let's see, 4 hours, I think it was.
That's substantial.
Yeah. Here, I actually did a little illustration. I'll bring it up for you.
Wow.
So this is, I think, very close to what it must have been like for
Yes.
these guys.
Wow. You just look at this expanse, and I mean, even Christopher Columbus had accounts of having lights over the water,
Yep.
in his travels. And I know, like, we're north here, but I would think that it's the same idea. Like, there's just so much space where you could be undetected. The fact that it would come to where the ships are and hover over them, to me, is very interesting.
Yeah, I kind of think it's, a very subtle message, like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
You're at war. This is probably not. I'm purely speculating.
Yeah.
But based on some further accounts, which we'll actually get into.
Yes.
It's more than just purely speculation, because this is a message that does come up.
Yes.
But it must have been an incredible experience to see, because they stayed there for so long. It's really rare that a UFO stays for more than 5 minutes, generally speaking.
Do you think they were guiding them? Do you think they were expecting something, or they were just trying to prevent something? Maybe their presence would just keep everybody playing nice, or just keeping them on their way, escorting them, perhaps?
I think it was a display. Like, we're watching you,
Right.
we know what you're doing. We know what you're up to.
Yes. Yeah.
And this was at a time before UFOs were really in the public, what would you call it? Consciousness, awareness.
Yes.
UFOs weren't part of the zeitgeist. That's a good word.
Yes.
That we get to use a lot.
I like that one. Yeah. Yeah.
But pretty interesting. And what's also interesting is that how they moved away. All 4 moved at once, as though on signal, pulling away from their positions to higher and higher altitudes at a speed that was astonishing, and then poised high overhead, streaked off towards the north, and within moments vanished from sight. So,
yeah, like the Foo Fighters.
Could be.
Yeah. It's so interesting. It's so fascinating, because so much goes on up there, and you would never have any idea.
Yeah, and I like what the witness said. He says, "We never did know what they were, where they came from, what they sought, or where they went. How does one explain a thing like that, except to point out that it happened at sea, and that the sea contains many mysteries, and always will."
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, I just have to look at the Nimitz for that. That's a frequent flyer with UFO sightings right there.
Yeah.
So
it makes me wonder how much goes on up there that we don't never see.
Oh, that's exactly right. And here it was one in the Northwest Territories. A bright light was seen crashing into a small lake in the Northwest Territories. The RCMP, which would be the U.S. version of FBI, investigated but didn't have the tools to do a proper investigation. So whatever crashed is still there. So that's not far from the Arctic. Yeah, Northwest Territories, Canada, Northern Canada. So,
unless the ETs probably gathered it up,
which is possible, sure. Probably so overgrown by now too. Things go wild up there.
I imagine there's all kinds of stuff under the ice. Well, we know there is. Just last year, they found another woolly mammoth in the Arctic. So
yeah, it just hides its secrets.
Yeah, I had a dream once that they had discovered a woolly mammoth and carved it out of the ice and dragged it by a helicopter and cut it open, and they found fresh food in its stomach. So it looked like it had flash frozen. And then it was 2 weeks later. I'm like, oh my God, it's on TV. I called my sister, look. She's like, oh my God, yeah, that's exactly the dream you had. I'm like,
premonition.
Occasionally I will have precognitive dreams.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that.
I saw the darn helicopter lifting it up in this block of ice.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
I think it's phenomenal. I think it's maybe have more of a connection. Well, now you have a connection. Back then you're probably like, oh, That's insane.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yes. All right. What's next, Preston?
Okay.
Take her away.
Let me see if I can find my slide here. Okay, so I can pull it up. It's a perfect time.
Love it.
I got a good illustration for this one. This is kind of secondhand, I guess, because this is not coming directly from the witness, but from a guy I really respect, who does have some controversy surrounding him, unfortunately. But Lieutenant Colonel Wendell Stevens is a pioneering UFO researcher who ended up putting out several books and basically was threatened by the government, like, if you touch this one, we're going to get you. And they did. And he was accused of nefarious acts and ended up spending time in prison. For, you know, if you want to get into it, you can look it up.
Yes.
But I didn't talk to him directly, but I did correspond with him briefly, not too long before he passed away.
Yes.
I think some people, you know, if you get too close to the truth, they'll come after you. And it's my opinion that's what happened to him, but y'all can make up your own minds about it.
Again, I didn't say that. Just saying.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
We'll put allegedly before we.
I love it. Yeah, you were remote viewing. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
As well.
We can all do this. When you're dreaming, you're out of body, you're dissociated, your psychic abilities are turned on. It's a great way to access the paranormal very easily. Anyone can do it. And most people will have a precognitive dream at least once or twice in their life. It's, according to some studies, the most common psychic experience.
Yes. Yes. And I think just people just don't know what it is that they're experiencing. That's the only difference.
It's funny. Even my skeptics in my family and friends would be like, I did have that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, imagine that. I love it. You can always tell the difference between just regular dreams and, let's say, visitations, or, like you say, remote viewing, or
like I can tell.
Travel,
it's a visitation,
traveling,
from a deceased loved one, say. The quality of their presence is different.
And you remember, like they say, if you can remember them, those are usually something substantial, like a message or a visitation.
Yeah. And the precognitive dreams are so vivid.
Yeah.
And really weird. It's like, why am I even dreaming this?
Yes.
Because usually you can relate a dream to something and kind of interpret it.
Yeah. It's true. Like dreams to me are fuzzy and I don't remember them all. Whereas everything else, they're very vivid to me. I can remember more of the details. Yet when I was younger, I could lucid dream. I could do everything. I could rewind my dreams. I could fast forward them.
Wow.
I could keep going back. Oh yeah, I was a freaking like genius with that stuff. Then I had kids and like my brain cells were never the same after that. I could never do it. I was like, oh, you sucked all my brain cells out. I say my lucid dreaming cells were just like gone. It happened like so few and far between. But as a parent, you never sleep again, really.
Wouldn't know.
It changes. So
anyway. Well, doing the astral travel has kind of done that for me. I'm always slightly awake. It's hard to describe, but I don't sleep like I used to.
Don't anymore, right? Yeah, it's true.
Always like I hear, a cricket walking on the other side of the house.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Do you think it's just because you're more aware? So you're just like everything else is enhanced, like sound and everything?
Definitely. Yeah. I've always been, super sensitive in hearing and can smell things a mile away and not get it.
Yeah.
Like, what's that smell? Do you guys not smell this? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yes. Yes.
We're getting off tangent.
Yeah, that's okay. I will roll. We'll just reel it back in. We'll go there.
I did have, just because it's interesting, I did have one OBE not too long ago where this lady, two women showed up, and one was Susan, the other, I asked her, like, what's your name? And her friend Susan's like, well, my name's Susan. She doesn't remember her name, but it's Julie, and gave a very unusual last name.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, because I don't want to repeat it. Because I found her.
Oh.
She's like, I died, and I overdosed, and they left me on the street to die.
Oh.
I'm like, oh my God, you poor thing.
Yeah.
Can I help you? No, let's cross over to the other side. And I started to lift them up, and then Susan, her friend's like, "I got it. I'll take her from here." And off they went.
It's
But I
just
saw
raining
this
on your
one.
parade. Get out of my way, Susan. I can do this.
Hey,
Yeah. Okay.
she wants. It's her friend, so.
Right. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
looked her up. I'm like, this is a person who has a very unusual last name,
Hmm.
and beginning with E. I guess I can say that safely.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I looked her up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this
That's
is her. Died like 3 months earlier, 2 months earlier.
Wow.
Crazy.
It is,
And it
isn't
looked
it?
like her too. I
Yeah.
can't prove it for sure, but it was.
But it's a nice
her name.
validation. Even when you know, your gut tells you, no, this is
Yeah.
definitely. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. It's a freaking duck, right? It's just like that's sort of the way it is. So you're probably right onto it because you know your instincts. Trust your instincts, right?
Okay, now I want to get to this one with Lieutenant
right.
Colonel Wendell Stephen. He's a young man. He's made
Okay.
many contributions to the UFO field.
Okay.
But if you've ever wondered why, he was in the, let's see, I think it was the Army.
Mhm.
He was part of a, and I couldn't verify this to the degree I'd like to, but this apparently secret project called Project Ptarmigan. A ptarmigan is an Arctic bird.
Yes.
And he said he was assigned to Alaska, and it was his duty to brief and debrief the pilots who were going out there to photograph every inch of the Arctic. This is when the Arctic was not known, 1948, beginning of the modern age of UFOs. This is when they're coming in big numbers. We have UFO activity going back millennia, but 1947 is when it really escalated. They came in big numbers and didn't stop for the longest time. So they're mapping the Arctic, and he says these guys were coming back losing their minds because they kept seeing these strange aircraft, which were perfectly round, saucer shaped, bright, shiny silver, and were doing all this crazy stuff. Some thought they were Russians. Others like, no, there's no way this could be anything on Earth, because they would fly at thousands of miles per hour. Here, I'll put up the illustration I had AI do, which I think is
well done. Yeah,
pretty much close to what they saw. But they would fly thousands of miles per hour, make sharp angle turns at super high speeds, stop, reverse instantly, stand still in the air, descend and ascend vertically at slow and high speeds, land on the ice, on the water, and even submerge underwater, emerge again, and fly away. So,
wow.
Now, what are they doing up there in the Arctic?
I know. Nobody's going to see them.
Off.
Yeah.
What Dolly says, they get very hot. This is why they go in the water.
They cool down. Yeah. That would make a lot of sense. But I mean, you could just imagine like what goes on there. Like you had just said, what goes on there? How much is up there that people aren't actually witnessing?
Yeah. The UFO phenomenon is not dependent on an observer to exist.
Yes.
Which, I think some people assert that, like, oh, it's only here for us. It's working on our beliefs.
Yeah.
We're actually producing this. No. It's objective. We are not the center of the universe. We keep learning that. We're trying to learn that, at least.
We're the classroom.
It's that. Man, can you imagine seeing something like that?
Oh my goodness, I would love to see something like that. Usually you could just never get that close to it.
Yeah.
So
that's what got him interested, and I wasn't able to find any evidence of this Project Ptarmigan. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes.
But certainly interesting, and it absolutely makes sense that we would map the Arctic and not tell anybody about it.
Yes. Yeah. That could be. That could be a thing. Craziness though. They're beautiful. And easy to blend because they just pick up on the reflection for everything around it. So it makes it a lot harder to see as well.
So we wouldn't have heard about this if not for him. So there's a bunch of pilots out there. All these people are sworn to secrecy. If you're in the military, it's, you don't talk.
Yeah.
Which I understand to some degree. But let's face it, it's practically 100 years later. You can tell us now.
Yeah, it's true.
We're finding out anyway, so why
Mhm.
not?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Well, more and more. We'll see more and more. Right? I mean, they'll make themselves known to those who are supposed to when the time is right, and it's kind of a crazy time right now. So,
Yeah. Well, gosh, when I was doing the Antarctic studies, almost every one of those cases was photographed and filmed. I'd love to see that. That is so annoying.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, hi,
Oh,
Karen. Hey.
darn.
Yeah. No, no, exactly. All right. What's next?
Okay, this one was interesting because this was very widely viewed. August 1950. I
Wow.
love butchering foreign names, so I'm gonna have fun with this one.
Better you than me. Go,
It says
Preston.
Nizhny Kolimsk. I think I got it. Nizhny Kolimsk, Russia.
Oh, Kalinske.
And
Kalinske.
I like this one because we hear very little about what's coming out of the Soviet Union, especially back during the Cold War times.
Yeah.
This guy is the chief navigator of, this is such a mouthful, chief navigator of polar aviation of the Administration of Civil Aviation of the USSR.
Jesus. There's a handout to try to remember. Wow.
Valentin I. Akuratov
Yes.
gave this report, which was on August of 1950. This disc-shaped object appears over this Arctic village, which I said Nizhny Kolimsk. But it did it for 3 days in a row, always at the same time. Why? Why are they doing this?
Yeah.
But this was observed by the entire population of the town. It caused great interest. Everyone was absolutely freaking out. But turns out, and I think this might be one of the reasons why they were visiting there, this is sort of a military landing pad there.
Yeah. But the same time.
Yeah.
So that's very unusual, isn't it? To have it's like almost a residual or like a planned thing. I mean, that's unusual for them
It
to
is.
do
I
that.
mean, it's not unusual for an encounter to happen over a period of days because they come back like they're doing something. But all right, 3 o'clock, let's go.
Well, yeah, because if it's predictable, then people can catch you. Call me crazy, but if you're trying to be covert, that's not the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So
they reported it to superiors and were told to try to attempt to intercept them with their aircraft, their Catalina airplanes.
Yeah.
So they could reach an altitude of 25,000 feet, but these obviously went much higher, much faster. But really beautiful. They said pearly colored, very reflective.
Yeah.
And,
a little bit like just what was just saw on your last picture, but only iridescent.
Right. Now here's a UFO crash incident, which is super controversial. What one isn't? Let's face it.
Yeah.
And this one has, the people came out of the woodwork to try to dismiss it, debunk it. So that always makes me suspicious.
Yes.
But I like this one because we have a quote from a colonel who is, a Norwegian Air Force colonel.
Yes.
Who absolutely said this happened. And the story of it dried up. The Spitsbergen Island UFO crash, May 1952. This is conflated with another incident around the same time. So again, confusing and controversial. But apparently this squadron was flying over the area when they started getting weird radio interference. And they couldn't figure out where it's coming from. And one of these guys, pilot Olaf Larsen, was the first to see a glint of light on the jagged peaks of Spitsbergen Island. If you look it up, it's a pretty remote, rugged area.
Yeah.
And so they flew lower and lower and lower, and there's this 135 to 150 foot wide metallic disc cracked open. It's crashed. So they send they're thinking at this point, aircraft accident.
Yes.
Conventional, right? So they send a rescue mission to it and get it into, find out, no, this is probably not, they were thinking Russian is what it might be. But it was your typical disc, And why I don't think it's Russian is because they found 4-foot-tall, human-looking humanoids, or no, 7 of them,
Wow.
or all badly burned. They said they had perfect sets of teeth. It's kind of unusual.
That's very unusual. Yeah, wow.
But here's another thing that makes me think, this is legit, because they couldn't find any engine in this thing. There was no rivets, fuses, bolts.
Yes.
And it was believed that the craft navigated using the magnetic fields of our planet. They found a tank of heavy water, what looked like some pills. So this is when the Norwegian government releases a statement. This is official, calling it definitely not of this earth. And it was shortly after that the security lid comes tight down over the case. And very little information was forthcoming. However, this is when this Norwegian Air Force colonel, let's see, I've got his name here. I'm going to do my best here. Gernod, Gernod, Darnhill. I couldn't find evidence that he even exists, but here's his name. It's in the multiple reports. Because I always like to vet things from multiple. There's so many sources on this case.
Yes.
So something clearly happened, but here's his name.
Yes.
And I like what he said. He says, the Spitsbergen crash was very rewarding. A misunderstanding developed some time ago when it was stated that the flying disc was probably of Soviet origin. It has, this we must state emphatically, not been built by any country on Earth. The materials are completely unknown to all experts, either not to be found on Earth or processed by physical and chemical processes unknown to us. So they tried to get in this thing, break it. It was impervious at absolute zero and the highest temperature they could create, and impervious to every known chemical treatment. So he was gung-ho for releasing. He said, we must tell the public what we know about unknown flying objects. A misplaced secret may well one day lead to panic. And he said that a report would be forthcoming. Of course, never did. Never hear anything more about it. And this is when this case was viciously attacked.
Yet with a colonel, or an Air Force personnel, you would think that that adds to the credibility.
Yeah, and we've got some of the names of the pilots who were there. There was another guy, a Norwegian Lieutenant Tillensen.
Yeah.
He said that he was assigned to observe the polar regions and says that he's seen UFOs taking off, landing several times, doing all these brilliant maneuvers that they do. And I know some of these people who debunk this are kind of on my naughty list. I know who they are. You can look it up. I don't want to get in trouble.
No, but you know what? You're presenting what's out there. I mean, I'm sure there's things out there that can be debunked, and there's probably things out there that you cannot debunk. It's hard. The fact that you can even find these accounts, to me, are wow, that they're still out there.
Yeah.
So
this is amazing how much of this is suppressed or covered up. And I'm finding most of these in very obscure places. The Spitsbergen crash was fairly well publicized, broadly publicized in numerous publications. But again, they get exaggerated. You have to track it down to the original source. And people are inserting absolute disinformation into these cases. They're professionals at it. They're very clever. They'll give you a grain of truth and then build something around it that makes you absolutely dismiss what's going on here.
But that takes away from the credibility. After a while, your peers are going to chime in, and that's an awful big chance to take. Because all you have to do is be discredited one time. It takes a while to bounce back from that.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of heads rolling at some point.
Oh yeah.
So kudos to that colonel for you know what, people deserve to know. Because I think they do.
Well, especially when you're looking at certain countries. Besides, I think they're very private about things like that. Russia, there's actually quite a few different ET accounts that have come out of Russia, which I was like surprised. Even Russian scientists. How many times have you heard me say this? Like, no, they didn't do CE5. Well, they did a CE5, what we call CE5 now, but like we didn't have to go to space. We just called them to come to us. And there was one specific base, and they would have a certain race that would come down. I'm just like, fuck, that was back in like the 80s before.
Yeah, they found this method. They would set up a false scientific experiment, would bring them in every time.
See, it's just like brilliant.
ETs are monitoring our, venturing into space and what we're doing. Because you see this in a lot of these Arctic reports. They come down. Like this next one, June 26, 1952, Padloping Island. Now, this is an interesting case on the eastern coast of Canada, uninhabited, but it has a small weather station. And so this is what it's used for. Now, you know what a theodolite is? It's a kind of a telescope with a protractor, and you can use it for monitoring weather balloons and aircraft, and it allows you to triangulate an object, determine its size and its speed, and so forth, its trajectory. It's a scientific instrument. So they launched this, what's called a pieball weather balloon, to just do weather readings.
Right.
And they had a theodolite tracked on it. And this is when this disc shows up, oblong and flat. They watched it for 5 minutes, and it was investigating this balloon. Several cases of this happening. So they're like, what are these humans doing? And it's interesting to me because, that's the explanation. It's a balloon. Well, what if you have something flying around this balloon like that?
I know. After a while, it gets a bit old. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Nice, isolated, desolate area, though.
This is apparently a really busy time because here's a tiny little tidbit I found from the South Wales Echo newspaper, which said that an American research institute, unnamed, don't know, told them that in 1953, get this, 126 UFO reports. This is 1953 alone. 126 reports came from Alaska, 103 from Greenland, and 187 from elsewhere in the Arctic Circle. So I found like 2 dozen.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
108, that's what, 400 right there?
Yeah.
1953?
Yes. That's insane.
That's the word, insane. That's insane.
It's crazy, but it's one of those places. It's just undetected. Like I say, that's just, what you're talking about. That's just documented.
This American Research Institute, I don't know what it is, but they're detecting it.
Yes.
Someone up there, and you can bet your dollars that they document all of this.
Yes.
All of it.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
that's
but you're never gonna get your hands on it. Oh, sorry. You just look so sad.
I'm sad.
Yeah, so sorry.
I want to see those little Spitsbergen bodies. Why not?
Yeah.
If you want to keep parts of it secret, I can understand that. How to make the metal or what, but you can certainly show us the little bodies. Put them behind glass. How is that going to hurt?
Yes.
3 a.m. Thank you, Solomon.
I know. Solomon's a champion. It's like Mark Mazzo. He's in the UK too. He's a champion.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Hope you don't have to work tomorrow.
No, boy. Let's hope not. That it makes it very frustrating because you see all the stuff being documented, and you would think that now we are, in an age where the information should be getting put forward. There's just so 100%. Many people screaming for disclosure of sorts,
Yep.
So maybe might get it yet, Preston, because you're just a likable guy. People gravitate towards you before they just, with certain people.
I always said sooner or later it's got to come out because it's true.
Yeah.
If this is actually happening, and it is.
It is. Yeah.
It's got to come out.
Yeah. But you're the guy to do it. I think you would just do it with so much grace and integrity.
You never know. I just want it to happen. Come on. How many hundreds of years is this going to take?
Oh, you put it out there. It just might take longer.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It is because most countries many of the countries throughout the world have already put it out there. You know, we're all just hanging on over here. Whatever. So, all right.
Someone's going to be the first to really spill the beans. So
Yeah.
they will be on the right side of history when it happens, and I think the dominoes will fall.
I hope it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that, you know, in my lifetime.
Right. Now, I still haven't gotten to my favorite case yet. So
okay, let's keep going.
Really good stuff coming up.
Ooh,
And I haven't gotten to the humanoids either, but hopefully we'll have time.
Yeah.
Time is passing by. Okay, I found a bunch in Thule, Greenland. This is an Army Air Force base on the north part of Greenland. Again, someone can look that up, what it's called now.
It's
a funny name. But at any rate, found a bunch there. Here's one of the more interesting ones. August 29, 1952, Commander Edward P. Stafford sends up 3 planes, right? One of them is piloted by Lieutenant John Callahan. And he comes back, he's all tense and pale. And the commander, Edward Stafford, is like, what's wrong? And Lieutenant Callahan says, you're not going to believe it. I'm not sure I even do, and I saw it. And it was their job to send up a skyhook balloon, which is another one of these, it had a scientific package on it, right? And they send it up. It's going way the heck up there. And sure enough, they're using binoculars watching it. 3 discs up here and come right up to it. Here, I've got the drawing they made. I love it when the witnesses do drawings.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's rough, but
it's creative. It gets the point across. Yeah.
But look at that. You know, this is unclassified.
Yes.
Now it's unclassified.
Yes.
So they all saw this on board, and they used binoculars, watched these 3 discs for several minutes as they were executing tight turns. And here's what's really interesting. This thing accelerated at in excess of 10,000 miles per hour, far faster than anything we have, certainly at that time, and went up to 90,000 feet altitude.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah, that's a hike, isn't it? So Michael says the Thule Air Base in Greenland, located in the Arctic, is now called the Pacific Space Base. Rolls off the tongue a little better.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
See how you can mess that up? You could definitely get in trouble.
Yeah, I think so. Best to try to avoid names. So.
I'm already in trouble with the grammar police, so I'm not even going there.
Well, I should have let you read it out then, because you're already in trouble. I'm doing all right so far.
But yeah, they have so much is going on at that base. I think they see it a lot more than they're saying. Here's one year later. This is a good one. December 9, 1953. There were 3 flights going. You know, they're all separate by a couple of miles. 2 people in each plane. All of them saw it. This UFO darting by, blue glowing object. All 3 of them saw it triangulate. You know, it's really well authenticated. So they go down and they land and talk to the intelligence officer, who is, I nailed this guy, Captain Harold R. Miller. Interviews all of these guys. All of them said, you know, this was not a meteor. This was a craft. We don't know what it is. So he writes up a report and puts probably astronomical phenomenon.
Wow.
I want to call him a name right now. I really do.
Go crazy, Preston. Just do it. Just do it.
Oh, I'll put him on my naughty list. How's that?
The naughty list.
You, Harold.
That's not good.
That speaks
volumes.
Busted.
Busted.
Probably not around anymore, but if you're up there or down there, maybe.
Shame on you.
Hear me.
Yeah. You made it to the naughty list. I like that.
Terrible.
All right.
But, yeah, I mean, let's see. There's a lot of really interesting cases. I want to get to this really good one because these are mostly just sightings. Here's one where a craft landed at Umiat. This is in the Arctic Circle, January 1959. Red saucer-shaped object. If you look this up, it's a tiny. No, you would not want to go there. Tiny little town surrounded by ice.
Yeah.
This object just lands, goes right over the base. I'm thinking they want to be seen in a number of these cases. Here's one which is, I think, an important case because Ivan T. Sanderson wrote about this and absolutely lied. I had such respect for him until I read this. His book is good, Invisible Residents. He's the first to talk about USOs. But the witness, Rubens J. Villela, says, no, he absolutely screwed up his firsthand account. They were anchored at Martel Inlet. This is in Admiralty Bay at King George Island, March 16, 1961, when they saw this luminous phenomena, which he says should be classed as a true UFO. It was silent, its trajectory nearly horizontal, multicolored, blue, white, and red, moved slowly, split into two at one point, and took off. Says it's much too slow. He says, I could think of nothing on Earth which would reproduce this phenomena. But later in life, reads Ivan T. Sanderson's book, Invisible Residents, and he wrote that this thing came out of the water, broke through the ice cap, and flew upwards. That did not happen. So I'm correcting the record here for Rubens, because you can't be too careful.
Well, it takes away from the validity. It takes away any validation of the story.
Why would you do that? It's incredible enough.
Yes.
You don't need to do this.
The fact that it splits in half to me is amazing.
Yeah, there's reports of this, and I think this is what, tempted some people to call this a meteorite. But these are scientists, mind you. This is their job to observe. He was with the U.S. Navy's Operation Deep Freeze as a scientific observer aboard the USS Glacier. He knows what he's looking at. He knows his stuff. So,
right.
Pretty interesting.
It is. Oh, absolutely.
I did find a humanoid. Well, several. Okay. This one's kind of interesting. This is in Finland. Puolanka. I think I got that right.
I don't know.
Puolanka.
I'm not touching it. Yeah.
This involves two witnesses late at night, August 1962, northern Finland, and driving at night and come upon this little man standing in the road with his hands raised up. So they stopped to pick him up. This is kind of what you do in northern latitudes. It's the law in, I think, Alaska. There's a hitchhiker on a frozen road. You have to pick them up.
You have to pick them up. Wow.
But this guy was unusual.
Yeah.
He had an abnormally large head, huge round black eyes, a large nose, a wide mouth with thin lips, so very unusual looking. And his eyelids blinked upwards instead of downwards. And had 6 fingers on each hand.
Right. Did he actually get into the car?
No, he did not.
Okay.
They asked where he came from, and he spoke telepathically and saying, well, I'm not from Finland.
Sense of humor, too.
But he was touring the Earth. What he said.
Yeah.
So he started to, they got out of the car to talk to him, and this man walked up to a big old stack of logs, jumped on top of it without apparently even touching it, kind of gliding, and disappeared. So they started driving on, and this flying saucer comes up. They hear it humming, and it circles over the car, and off it goes. So
that's crazy.
I think he was like saying, "No, here, this is my car." Boom.
Yeah, that's insane.
An interesting case.
Yeah, just say the least.
Right?
God. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh my God. You imagine just for a moment pulling up to somebody like that and inviting them into the car? It'd be just like, hey, you want to ride?
It happens. I did a whole thing on that, extraterrestrial hitchhikers.
You did.
Remember?
I do.
It's crazy.
It is. It is.
Just saying.
Oh my God.
Over a dozen cases from researchers like Brad Steiger and one of my favorite, RD6 Killer Clark.
Yeah.
I hope she's okay. She does no interviews. She wrote 3 excellent books. Don't know what's going on with her, but I just love her books.
And she does.
I just wanted to date her cases. That's my main thing.
Just send her a nice polite email. Would you mind? Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
now this is why I wanted to do this show. I love this case. And I dug deep and I finally verified that this did happen. I found independent confirmation because this comes from Sally Rimele, who is a journalist and wrote this article for Fate magazine titled Luminous Objects on the Arctic Ice. I would retitle it to what she said: an extraordinary thing happened to me on my way to the North Pole.
Right, yes.
Because that's what she said. She was invited to participate in NASA's Aurora expedition of February 29, 1965 to March 10, 1965. I can't tell you how long it took me to verify that, but I found it.
Wow.
Independent
Kudos,
confirmation of
Preston.
this.
If anybody can, it's you. Yeah.
And she was invited in her capacity as a journalist. So she's joining all these scientists. And this is, a month-long scientific expedition, which she called the most exciting assignment of her journalistic career. So they're flying over the polar ice cap, literally going over the North Pole over and over again at 40,000 feet elevation. They have warm coffee and stuff, but still cold inside. The temperature outside is 60 degrees below zero. So, gosh, let me see. I know I've got some pictures of this. Let me see.
I love the show and tell. Good.
This is the aircraft that they were inside, which was specially outfitted. See those windows on top?
Yes. Wow.
They actually built this aircraft to do this. And this is it. This is the Galileo Convair 990. So I think this is the actual aircraft. 129 feet long, specially outfitted with cameras and equipment and survival gear because, in case it crashes.
Oh, God. That's what you want to think about boarding the plane.
So this is what happened on March 1st, 1965. Thank you, Sally, for coming forward with this because no one else did to this day.
Wow.
And I know people know about it. So she goes up, gets a cup of coffee, and is sitting curled up in her seat, looking out. She's very familiar with what lights look like down below because you occasionally see villages and boats and stuff. And she's looking out the window and gets this incredible shock because, as she says, far below on the ice's surface were 3 round glowing lights arranged in a straight line. Each light was huge, all were the same size, perfectly round. They were luminous, glowing with an inner white light completely different from any other thing we had seen in the Arctic. So again, she's familiar with all these lights and she's looking at these things. They have to be huge. I have her drawing here. And I did a little recreation of it too. But this is what she saw. So these things are, it had to be several city blocks, each one of them.
Wow.
So perhaps larger, she says. She says, I could hardly believe my eyes. So she's just absolutely entranced. She's looking at these, just gobsmacked.
Yes.
And finally has the presence of mind to point them out to people had to be seeing this. These had to be photographed. These had to be filmed.
Yes.
Because this plane, that's their purpose. That's what they're there for. They were basically there to study the Aurora Borealis, mostly.
Right.
But
yes, but this is like bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she goes to the official expedition photographer who's sitting behind her, I think.
Yeah.
And he says, "What are they?" And his response was, could they be reflections? And she's like, "No, as well as I do, they're not reflections." Because the reflections will kind of move along with you,
Right.
And these were disappearing fairly quickly.
Yes.
Starting to go behind them. He says, "I don't know. I really don't know." So she jumped up and asked the guy in front of her, a scientist, and his, no, he was the one. Let me see here. Yeah, he was the one who said they were reflections, not the photographer. And Sally balked at him and said, "No, they're not." And he replied, "They don't look like settlements. I don't know what they are." So by this point, they were only in view for a minute or so, and disappeared behind them. But just moments later, there were 3 more. Only this time, instead of this formation, they were 3 arranged in a triangle. So I did a little, mock-up of what they might have seen, and that's about as good as I could get.
Well, that's very impressive. Yeah.
Interesting, right? I mean, so what is that big? What can be that big? This is not a natural phenomenon.
No, absolutely not.
It really impressed her because, she says it looks like an arrow.
That's
was it
true.
pointing towards? This was.
Yeah, that's true.
No idea.
So was they witnessing this above? On the windows above?
Yeah, this was like over the North Pole area. This is in the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, no, I mean, but they're on the plane. So to be able to see the whole lineup like this, where were they viewing it? Was it through the windows above the plane, or were they
below? This is below
the plane?
This is landed on the ground.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, this is on the ground.
It's been a long day. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm keeping up. I promise.
If I didn't make that clear, just
okay,
to make that clear.
Got it.
Yeah, this is on the ice pack itself. So not a
Yes.
village, not a boat.
No.
There's nothing there for, and you couldn't go there if you wanted to.
Yes.
So what the heck is going on here?
Wow. Yeah, that definitely sheds light on a whole different story to be able to go over it and just see something like that, where it does look like an arrow.
Yeah.
Did she ever research this further and look into this, or?
Yeah, well, she tried.
Yes.
And it did not go well.
No.
They returned to the base. She wakes up the next morning and she's like, this has got to be the talk of all the people here.
Yes.
Nobody's talking about it. So she goes one-to-one to all these people. Did you see the strange lights? Only 2 admitted to seeing them, and those were the ones she pointed them out to.
Yes.
So they kind of had to admit, like, so what are they going to say? Oh no, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you can't play stupid at that point when you've been called out. No, no, that's pretty incredible.
So she said there were miles and miles from any known settlement, any known life, arranged in a geometric pattern. Never saw them again. I don't know what they were. I only know that I saw them.
Yeah, so very, very interesting.
And how many people did I say were on that plane? A lot.
Yes. Yeah. And nobody's talking.
Yeah, 33 people were on that plane.
I bet you most of them saw them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Dealing with scientists, not everybody wants to go there. Not everybody wants to go there, right?
That makes me so mad, because that would be so cool to see those photographs.
Yes.
And study them and triangulate them and figure out how big they were. But
I wonder if anybody has.
I couldn't find any information. I couldn't find her picture. I found out, her obit. I think I found it, and she is in fact a journalist. And I do bet, to the extent that I can. I found the article in Fate magazine. Obviously,
not everything ends up online, unfortunately. Some people are very guarded with their stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the Navy, so this was hush hush to some degree, I guess. Or the Air Force, rather.
Yes. So another one of those things, Preston, you just never know. You may just have some unsealed archives one day, and you're just going to come across a site and it's all going to be there.
Yep.
They just won't advertise it because it's just going to be for the, really the people who have a good incentive are just going to go and say, what? People who aren't really thorough researchers will never know.
Yep. That was my favorite case, just because, it's Sally Renali.
I know.
The journalist,
Yes.
It's cool.
It is very cool.
She's a whistleblower and absolutely had the courage to talk about. No one told her she couldn't.
Technically, yeah. It's a shame she doesn't do interviews. I wonder if if she was sort of threatened or watched, and it sort of made her back off.
That was some time ago that article was published. Gosh, I don't know what date it was, but it wasn't long after.
Yes, she kind of went dead silent, eh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Usually it's because somebody gets to you and you just sort of bow out gracefully and just disappear.
Yep.
So, all right, what's next, Preston?
Okay, here's a humanoid case. I like this one. It's very interesting because
I like the humanoids.
This shows that ETs are watching over us. And it's April 15, 1970. And for those of you who are space historians, look it up. Something really intense was going on at that date, which I'll get to. And for those of us who don't know, I didn't know. Just saying, but it's
all right.
A really important date in, in terms of the Apollo missions.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
This witness is apparently well known. I have not looked him up yet because I just found this case. I'm going to butcher his name. Kalle Tihonen was in his home in Kursu. This is in Sala, Finland. I heard this sound resembling a swarm of bees. Instant red flag for me because this is how so many people describe the presence of a UFO. Other members of his family heard it. He had the feeling someone was looking at him. Another red flag from the door behind him.
Yes.
So he turns around and there's this small creature, 120 centimeters in height. Don't ask me to get that into I don't know.
That's me either. Okay, guys, chime in. 120 centimeters high. What is that in feet?
4 feet, 4.5 feet.
Okay.
At any rate, he's your classic ET.
Yes.
Tight-fitting, skin-tight, shiny green jumpsuit and helmet. Very large, dark eyes, but looked very human.
Yeah.
He felt like this creature I shouldn't say that. This being walked through the door because he didn't hear the door open or close.
Almost
so that was
perfect.
weird. Oh,
okay. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
Kat, also on the network, just so you all know. Yeah.
So he stared at this little being, absolutely speechless, and had the presence of mind to say, "Where are you from?" The answer, this one made me laugh, was "From the space," is what the being said. Oh.
Yeah.
Said from this space.
Yes. Yes.
This was mentally, telepathically. And so, for those of you who don't know, Apollo 13 astronauts were stranded in space at this time. And so he asked about them and asked if they would get back home safely. And this little ET said, yes, they will. And said all this other stuff. But the witness, Kalle, says he couldn't remember any of it because he was so gobsmacked by that answer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And this humanoid steps back and disappears. I heard the same noise again. Again, other people in the house also heard this, and his 8-year-old son heard him talking to someone. So there's some level of confirmation here. And he went outside and saw this UFO lifting up, and off it went. And didn't sleep for 3 nights after that.
Oh my God! I guess
and
not.
felt unwell for a week. Which happens.
Is that normal? Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's normal, but it's certainly not unusual.
Right. Okay.
And I would probably attribute that to nervous shock more than anything else, because it can be very difficult to process an event like this.
Yeah, for some people.
People will get a headache, nausea, feel unwell, have insomnia. I'm not so sure it's the presence of the ET or the UFO that's doing this. In some cases, I think it is.
Yes.
But I'm not so sure in this case that it was.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll just concentrate mostly on the humanoid cases because there's one I'm really looking for. I'm doing this in order.
Well, you're okay. You've got time. They'll be on after us.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of really interesting. Here's one where an Inuit, I'm going to use that term, Inuit Scout Sergeant John Chimuk and his wife saw a football-shaped object with a window and red lights around it move slowly across the sky, and then it comes down and it lands real close to them. Oh, thanks, Solomon.
Yes.
So it's sitting there, just sitting there. This is so interesting to me because this happens case after case after case. Sometimes the ETs come out, walk around a little bit, and get back in. Yeah. Maybe pick up a rock or something.
That's so funny.
I mean, maybe some are tourists. I don't know, but I think in a lot of cases they're doing this intentionally. Like, here's a little married couple sitting around on the ice. Let's land for them. I don't know,
Aw,
speculating, but that's what it
here's a
looks like
rock.
here.
There's a rock. I take
So,
rocks when I travel too, so I can
right?
relate.
Yeah, I do too. I have a little collection.
It's so
It's
funny.
fun. It's a little memento.
It is.
Don't take one from Hawaii or the volcano. You're not supposed to.
I
I've
know.
heard.
I know. Same.
At any
Oops.
rate.
Oops. Yeah.
So,
Okay. So go ahead. Yeah, that would be a very cool experience.
yeah, football shaped.
Hmm.
Really cool. 1972. Watch it for 5 minutes. It takes off and leaves behind landing traces. You know, a little burn mark, melted snow, 2-inch deep holes in the ground. And it turns out 20 other people saw this UFO flying over the town,
Yeah,
but only they saw it land. So that's kind of cool.
that's very cool.
I found them. I found their pictures. You know, these are real people.
Yeah.
There was a big controversy over that town for other reasons, that they were not being treated well
Hmm.
due to, I think, discrimination.
Hmm.
So, such a shame.
It is a shame, Never mind, there's just like an alien down the street from some of you, and this is your biggest worry.
Right? Which just goes to show, why we haven't had open official contact. It's our
Oh,
own doing.
oh, absolutely. They've
You
got to
know?
come in here and think we're like the freaking like Truman Show or the Gong Show or something. It's Gong, get him off the stage. Like we're terrible. We're terrible. We're like a work in progress. Some much better than
Yeah.
others, but I mean,
I really like to think most people on this planet are good people, and given
yeah,
the right environment would absolutely thrive. But let's
yes,
face it, most of us are struggling for survival.
it's true. It's true. And when you come across like-minded people is when you do shows like this. We have all these people in here and everybody's like, yes, sharing their stories and their opinions. And we know you're all out there listening,
I remember when I was young and moved out of the family house, I lived check to check for over 10 years. I'm like, what do I buy? Toilet paper or food?
I know.
Salad dressing. I can't afford salad dressing.
It's true. Well, I can just go out and like chew on the grass or pick a dandelion or something. It's hard to prioritize,
When I worked at Pioneer Chicken, I got to take home chicken at least. They fed me for lunch free.
That's right. That's right. The toilet paper, now that was gold a few years back.
McDonald's made me pay. They're like, you can have 10% off. I lasted 1 week.
Yeah, I don't think
I got
so.
fired from McDonald's.
Yeah. Yeah, I am not going to do that. So yeah, screw you.
I do like their
E.
breakfast.
Yeah. Wow. Charging Preston Dennett 10% off.
And
Little
then
did
they
they
pay for
know.
my uniform too. I'm like, come on, you're paying me minimum wage. Give me a break here.
Yeah.
I had 3 I hated that job.
I know. Starving student. They could take 10% off or whatever, right?
Yeah.
This is
I quit
terrible.
when I went to college because I am not coming in dressed up in a Pioneer Chicken suit,
Yeah.
showing up at college class.
Yeah, but you can hand out chicken. You'd be like the most popular guy in the class. So,
I loved that job, actually. It was fun.
yeah, see? There you go.
What was I making, $1 or something an hour?
Oh my God, it's a way back machine. Don't you just love it when we just kind of like age ourselves that way? People are like, what? So yeah.
Man, oh man.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So here is another humanoid case.
Okay.
I love the humanoid cases.
Me
I think they're more fascinating.
They are. They are.
So this guy is anonymous. He's a traveling salesman. I guess we can trust him, but he's a salesman. Okay. And he is in Kemijärvi. This is one of the most northern towns in Finland. Finland has a lot of this stuff. And sees this bright object landed off the road 100 meters, 300 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks about 12 feet in diameter, 4 meters.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 feet in height or so, and real bright. And he's looking at this thing, and immediately 2 small humanoids appear right beside it. And he can see they're strange looking, even though it's pretty dark. They're wearing dark green suits, under 4 feet tall, begin to walk towards his car, and get to about 120 feet towards his car. turn and run back to their car. I mean, their car, their UFO. He did
Or
not see
car,
how the
same
answer
thing.
did. They apparently just went right through the wall, which
Yeah.
again to me is a legit description because they can do that. They have the ability to move through solid objects.
Mm-hmm.
And it went up without a sound and was gone. Oh, and his car stalled as well. As soon as this craft came down, his car stalled, sees the craft. These two beings come out. I'm not sure if they didn't see his car or what, but as soon as they got close to him, they turn around and run. So I don't know.
Should have asked for a jump start.
But he, to his credit, got out and went to this area and found 3 landing marks, 5 centimeters wide, 2.5 meters apart. Note to people: photograph the landing traces.
Yes.
Go back
Yes.
to the camera.
Yeah. But I don't think people think that far ahead. I mean, you don't always think.
I've seen UFOs. I had a camera on my neck. I did not think I could not take my eyes off of it.
Yeah.
So, I get it.
Yeah. Larry's aging himself too.
Oh, wow. Larry,
don't do it.
Poor thing. 75 cents.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
But my dad bought his house in Topanga Canyon for, let me see, I think it was $10,000. No, $20,000.
Yeah.
He sold it for almost $1 million.
There you go. 10 times your money. I love it. I know. That's insane for sure.
He bought a plane.
A plane.
Like, spend my money. We all told him, he has 6 kids. We all told him, buy your plane. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
He always wanted to fly. So.
Oh, that's nice.
Shout out to Pa. Love you.
Yeah. There you go.
He never believed in UFOs.
Yeah.
Never read one of my books.
Wow. Wonder if he ever saw any while he was up there. He would never tell you.
He hated the subject so much, which makes me wonder because maybe he saw something.
Some say it's generational. It's generational for me. They wouldn't tell me till I was a freaking adult. My dad's like, oh yeah, we'd see them all the time in the night sky because I grew up in an age of the aging myself thing. No satellites.
Yeah, wow.
Right there, right? So when you're in the night sky, there's no satellites up there. You are, I mean, maybe one, the U.S. military may have one, but when something's zipping across the night sky, the satellite's not doing that. So, and then it's like, oh no, yeah, we'd see them all the time. I'm going, huh. Seem to remember asking about that when I way back in the day, and nobody would fess up any freaking answers. And both my parents, all of a sudden, all these freaking stories. Never mind the giant freaking meteor that dropped into the lake on the way to work one day. We lived in a valley with a small lake.
Oh wow!
And they're like, "Oh, it's 5 o'clock in the morning." Went to work, and this big freaking thing came, ball of light went smashing right down into the lake. I'm like, you know how old I am right now, and you never felt this was anything I might be interested in knowing. I swam in that damn lake. I'm surprised it wasn't glowing in the damn dark. So, so yeah, parents.
Is it a deep lake? Is this a big lake?
No, like it was a large enough lake, but it wasn't super deep.
Wow, because meteorites are valuable. They're
right?
Very, very. If you can find it, it's worth doing an expedition. Yeah. Wow.
Going back to that lake. My sister still lives on that lake. I said, hey, get some scuba gear. Let's go.
Let's go.
But you have to think, though, it must hit so hard that it must just go way down underneath, like into the way into the earth.
Well, I was thinking, wouldn't that create a kind of a wave?
Yeah.
That must have created quite a splash.
Yeah. I know. Well, that's what I said. I'm like, why am I hearing about this now? Like, this is a big deal. Like, I don't know. Everybody was asleep. We were on our way to work. We had to get to work. Okay, what about after work? But we saw UFOs there all the time. I spent 20 minutes watching one come down.
Yeah, if you're seeing a UFO, call in sick.
I know.
There was one guy who was seeing humanoids, and he's like, the school bus came. He got on the school bus. I'm like, you know what? I think I would have just skipped school that day.
Yeah.
But he's like, I didn't know, what these guys were going to do. He wanted to walk up to them, but he was, nervous about it.
Yeah. See, to me, it's just like, I would be all over it. I sat there and watched that thing come down for 20 minutes thinking, okay, good, something's going to happen. And it shot up like a bullet and was gone. And then we had military or Air Force helicopters all over the valley the next morning. I'm like, I did see it. Yay.
The coolest meteorite once. It ripped a tear in the sky. This was during a meteor shower.
Yeah.
Bright purple, you could see the thing roiling and rolling. It left this scar on the sky that lasted for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. It's insane though, isn't it? It's to me, when we would see them, I was just like, you try to get the camera. Sometimes you're just like, by the time you get the camera, it's gone. Now we have camera phones. But I'll tell you something, I've told you guys about some things that I've seen. I'm looking at this great, amazing thing happening, just floating over the truck. And I'm just like, I'm fumbling. And by the time I get there, it's like, it's gone. I'm just like, anybody?
I'm glad we have camera phones, which were what? Popular in like late 1990s is when people really started to get them.
Yeah.
Probably way before that. Can you imagine if they were in the heyday of because the 1970s UFOs were raging.
Oh, they were right in. Yeah. Yeah.
There would have been so much more photographic evidence.
Oh, for sure. I saw the thing in the 80s, like early 80s when I saw that just coming down. Well, I say early 80s, maybe 84, 85, but to me, this is like, we didn't have doing it again. I didn't have a camera phone or a camera with me. The camera phones weren't a thing, and I didn't carry a camera around. I think maybe that's why you're just so limited in all of the information. Like right now, it's like, it'd be nice to have pictures of this, but it's not like now there's really no excuse.
Yeah. Almost nobody had videos at all.
No, no, not at all.
You had to have a serious, honest to God movie camera if you wanted to do videos.
No, it's true. Now there's no reason that you're not getting stuff, right? We should all be out there. But
which is why AI and Photoshop came to mess up the waters.
Exactly. It doesn't help. All right, what's next, Preston? What's next?
This one is an onboard experience. There's a couple of them.
Okay, let's do it.
This is so brief, so it is what it is. This gentleman, I think, is a man. No, this is a girl.
Okay. Oops.
I know Ivanov.
Okay.
Sounds like a male name, but I guess it's female. She was driving across a bridge and enters into this really peculiar fog.
Yes.
And this is so interesting. The car headlights were deflected upwards. There's a half dozen cases where UFOs bend car lights, headlights. So this is really important from a scientific perspective. If something can bend, but I'd like to get Dolly's input on this.
Chime in, Dolly. Yeah.
Magnetic field of some kind doing this.
Yes.
Really, really strong field of some kind. So needless to say, she stops and sees this silvery domed objects with portholes. Very brief case. This is from Richard Hall's book, Uninvited Guests. I haven't tracked down the actual source yet, but I'm going to. And was apparently taken inside of it and undergoes what most people do when they're taken on board. She was physically examined by three figures wearing dark clothing. And she was given an anti-war message that basically told her that, humans need to stop fighting each other. And said that they're having trouble reproducing, the environment of their planet is having problems, so forth.
Yes.
And afterwards, she felt drained of energy for 1 week. There's that same thing.
Yeah.
Anti-gravity would cause light to be altered from its natural trajectory.
Yes, and Dolly chimes in with magnetism at strong levels can bend light.
See, this is such important evidence because when you it's so interesting.
It is
in Australia where the headlights bent.
Yes.
Right to the object, and then as he passed, they bent the other way or something, or kind of curved around like. Really unusual.
So question, if it was one of our reverse engineered crafts, would it do the same thing? Dolly?
No, this is 1980.
Dolly, chime in. Yeah.
I'm guessing this is not because It's not like our military is going to take someone on board and say, don't do wars.
No, that's true. But I mean, if ever you're in a position where, something were to come that close to your vehicle, that an ET craft would do that. But
Yeah.
would, just so you know who you're really witnessing, would a reverse engineered craft do the same?
The best way to identify something as ET as opposed to military is ET craft are beautiful. They have a very shiny surface. There's no seams, no rivets.
Yes.
There's no real engine inside as we would think of it.
Yes. Hold on. Oops, wrong one. Okay. All right. And Dolly. Yeah.
All right.
Different system to produce anti-gravity. Oh, here we go. Jody, where did that happen? I experienced it as well.
It doesn't say the exact spot. So again, a really brief case, and it's kind of apocryphal. That's another word I haven't used a lot, but of uncertain source.
Yes. Okay. I like those little tag buzzwords. Yeah.
I'm trying to increase my vocabulary. I'm a writer,
Yeah.
I love wordplay.
I love it. It's always entertaining when you're on here with me.
So yeah, I love these cases. They're so well verified. Here's one from a very respected Soviet researcher, Felix Zeigel.
Okay.
And he got this from an aviator, Captain Vladimir Dubstov, who went public. So I'm really glad that some of these people are like, you know what, people need to know.
Yes.
So he saw this Captain Dubstov, October 22nd, 1980, was flying over the Arctic Ocean and sees something hovering right over the surface below his plane. And it's huge. He says it's probably 900 feet in diameter.
Wow.
So, and it's sending down a cone of light because he's coming at it from the side, giving it a real eerie appearance. Not moving, nothing's really going on. But as he gets closer to investigate it, always use caution when approaching a UFO.
Yes.
Because they have huge magnetic fields surrounding them. This is one of the reasons they're very hard to photograph, because they will shut you down. And that's what happened to Vladimir Dubstov. All his instruments went completely haywire. He began to lose altitude and was losing control. At which point, apparently, the UFO occupants sensed this because they vertically rose at high speed, whooshed by his plane, and were gone. So
wow.
He started talking to other Soviet Arctic pilots, found out that a lot of them were seeing stuff, and that the scientists in the Soviet Union were really trying to figure out what's going on because it was very active in these Arctic regions. And this was when they started to wonder if they were using this area to kind of go in and out of Earth's atmosphere.
Yes.
I asked Dolly about it. Like, it's not really a good place to use gravitational field lines, the North Pole.
No.
Because it's a little bit, unstable. But perhaps this is a place where they can be less detected. So.
I would think there's not always eyes on you. Like even when we talked about Antarctica the last time you came on, I mean, there's quite a few people that are, it's a smaller space, unlike in, the Arctic with you have bits and pieces of all these countries, but down there it's not. You just have a lot of scientists and a lot of,
Yeah, it's much more secret, hush hush. And
oh yeah, but eyes are on it constantly. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I would love to know the truth about what's going down in the Antarctic, but I'll tell you for sure they know about UFOs.
Oh, yeah.
I told you I got kicked out of an Antarctic science website. They were so mad at me. Boy, they were mad. They called me names. I'm like, you guys are scientists.
Oh,
how rude.
How rude. You know who you're talking to.
I'm providing documentation.
Yeah.
I've got high-level authorities here releasing information, and you're calling me names. What kind of a scientist are you?
And you're not. Do you not know who I am? That's what I would have said. I am the Preston Dennett. So, wow. To me, when people do that, they're not being objective. They're not even looking to. They're closed-minded, and it goes back to like, when you're dealing with, like, let's say hidden archaeology, and then you're having to deal with academia. Some people who go off and make discoveries on their own, find the best stuff, but academia will not pay any attention to because it was nobody within their little club that found it all.
They'll destroy evidence and experience.
They will Smithsonian, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, it's
exactly
insane. When someone does that to me, it says far more about them than it does the person they're accusing.
Exactly. But that, what? That's why, it's people like yourself who are putting it out there, because it's the only way anybody's ever going to get it. So.
Yeah, and I really wanted to concentrate, like I said, on cases that are at least somewhat vetted,
Yeah.
And are not, with all due respect, I'm not a flat earther.
Yeah.
I don't know about, some of these kinds of things. Hollow Earth, I'm not going there. I don't think it's scientifically credible. I really wanted to talk about stuff that, we can reasonably assume happened. And is well documented.
I won't say there aren't entrances in to somewhere, but I don't think
for sure.
you're going to go down.
The Earth's crust is riddled with caverns.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what's next, Preston?
One of my favorite. I really wanted to get to this one, so I'm glad we got there.
Okay.
We run out of time.
Nah, okay, go ahead.
This one, I'm assuming, was at Thule or Thick?
You're asking me. You have the paper for you.
I almost.
Yeah. I'm just following your lead and glad it's not me butchering.
The Thule Air Force Base.
Yeah.
The 2 feet.
Okay. Thank you, Dolly.
So this story is technically secondhand, but I really, really like the witness. He is Professor Dr. Robert Jacobs.
Yes.
Who, from the University of Wisconsin, a former Air Force photographer, but best known in the UFO community for having been a witness to a UFO incident at Vandenberg Air Force Base, where a UFO kind of circled around an Atlas missile and was threatened, and had his mailbox blew up, and researchers verified it, talked to his superior, Major Mansman, who said, oh yes, this happened. So he filmed a UFO. Very, very famous case. This is a good guy. I like him. You can see interviews with him. He's angry about what happened to him, and I don't blame him one bit. But he, a very interesting conversation with a good friend of his who was stationed at what I believe to be, I'll just call it Thule Air Force Base.
Okay.
I can't get that one for some reason. Patufik.
We're with you. Okay.
So,
yeah.
He said it was a U.S. base in Greenland, and so I think Thule is the main one there.
Yes.
At any rate, per Bob Jacobs, his good friend, he knows him well, and another security guard were stationed there as security guards watching the base. Boring job, but you're out there doing it, and you do what you do.
Yeah.
And they spotted what appeared to be Patufik.
Yeah, she's got you.
So they're security guards watching the base, which you have to have people out there, eyes on, and see a woman standing on a nearby hill 300 feet away in a blue ski suit. Long blonde hair.
Wow.
Standing on the top of a hill. Her hair blowing in the wind. Right?
Right.
Of course, nobody's supposed to be there. This is a secure base.
Right.
Really, this is 1982.
Beautiful blonde just standing in front of you.
A boys' club, let's face it.
Yes. But
not, I don't really want to go there because times are changing, but
exactly.
There's not supposed to be a woman out there in a
Yes.
ski suit right next to a very secure military base.
Right.
So this is weird right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them has to go investigate. So Professor Bob's friend wasn't the one. The other security guard, unfortunately, went up to investigate it. And she disappears behind the hill. He goes up climbs down behind the hill and is gone for like 15 minutes.
Yes.
Right? So he's starting to get nervous, Jacob's friend, and finally comes back to his post, and he's freaked out. His eyes are glassy. He's dazed.
Mhm.
And he says, that was not a woman. That was a man.
Wow.
And a very beautiful, what we call Nordic,
Yes.
human-looking ETs. And that was not a ski suit. That was a jumpsuit. Very thin, skin tight. He was very muscular, very tall, like I think 7 feet tall.
Wow.
And over on the other side of the hill was a spacecraft. Landed on the ground, took this guy into the craft. And what's really interesting is as he's walking, he sees this guy standing next to the craft, right?
Yeah,
and as soon as he looks at him, music starts playing in his head, telepathic music, calling him to the craft. I've heard this only a few times, but it does come up.
Mm-hmm.
And took him into the craft, which he didn't really describe. One message was there only. The ET said, "You have to stop testing atomic bombs because you are damaging the atmosphere of your planet." That's it. Let him go.
Wow.
So I can see this happening because, here's the people you want to tell. These are the people who are, in power. They're the military. They're the ones doing it.
Yes.
So get this message. Of course, they did tell Eisenhower. They've told all our world leaders this. Did not listen. So they're going to the people.
Yes.
Everybody, Joe Public, everybody on the street. They're telling everybody. Tell enough people this word will get out.
Yes.
Oh, it's just sunny.
It's going to make Preston all bashful now.
Oh, shucks.
Darn. Makes you just feel all warm and fuzzy.
I love
I
this
can feel it
subject.
coming across the screen. So
I am really grateful to have the
following
ability
that you
to do this.
Yeah, people love you because they know you have integrity.
Well, I hope so. I wish there was more integrity, and there's a lot of really good researchers, but boy, are there some bad apples.
Yeah, I think that's in every field as well.
And I'm not even sure how to deal with it because I don't want to call them out.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I've had a few come after me. There's one right now. I'm like, oh, this is not okay.
No, but it's funny how when you're putting out positive stuff, it's like, why does it have to be silenced? You would think that everybody has their own perspective, whatever their experience. Maybe these guys maybe they had a bad onboard experience. Maybe they're interviewing people who've had bad onboard experiences. But that doesn't mean it's all like that. You happen to have a very wide array of people who seek you out because they trust you to tell their stories. You feel safe. A lot of times people need to feel safe in telling these stories, especially when you're dealing with older generation or people who just aren't versed on the topic. Some people grew up in a generation of, you just don't talk about things like that. It's a really big deal for some of them to come forward, especially if it's somebody who maybe just went through hypnosis. So they're like, they're like in shock because they realize it's a whole lot different than maybe what they're having recollection of.
I mean, it's really hard for everybody involved. The family of a person who's going through this, has certain stress about it.
Yeah.
But the witness, especially because they're challenged mentally, physically, emotionally, psychically, spiritually. So if it's freaking them out, they know it's going to freak everyone out around them.
It's true. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So we're there, top, almost 10 after. Is there anything else you want to?
Well, I would just say, to wrap that one case up.
Yes, do that.
This guy is sharing this, and then that's when, sure enough, from behind this hill rises up this craft, and so they both got to see it dart off.
Wow!
Classic flying saucer.
And here you are on this base. I would take that pretty seriously.
Yeah. So we pretty much covered all the cases. I got another one from 1997 for this little town.
Yeah.
I'm doing UFOs Over Your Hometown series.
Yes.
This is kind of what inspired me. This guy says, I bet you can't find one in Okay, I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
Tuktoyaktuk. And
I bet you can't find tuk.
I did.
Sorry.
He's like, good job.
Yeah.
I found a case there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you want to share it?
Well, it's a typical craft, which was, metallic lighting over the trees, silver gray, rows of portholes.
Yeah.
Absolutely freaked out all the passengers in the car.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to talk about it.
Of course.
And she says, I'll never travel again without my camera.
See? Yeah, see? But back then, that's you have to rely on the camera.
That was 1997. And the final case, most recent I could find, was in Norvik, Alaska.
Yeah.
Which was a big wave of sightings. Everyone there saw them.
Yeah.
2002 to 2003 became absolutely normal.
Like hundreds of sightings, wasn't it? Like a couple of hundred sightings a year or something back then?
Over this period of
a
couple of months, it was,
Wow.
There's this enormous wave. So sometimes I think stuff is going on that the ETs are like, we need to deal with this right now, whether it's a geologic study or perhaps they're pulling animals up or something. But
yes,
I don't know. If people tried to get close to them, they'd always dart off.
Yeah, I've heard crazy things coming out of Nome. It seems to be a real hot spot up there.
I'm telling you, there's
Alaska.
We're not seeing the tip of the iceberg. I'll stick that in your
tip
of the iceberg.
Yes. Yeah.
That's perfectly appropriate for
it is. It is.
So I mean, that's amazing. This is, what, a half dozen? No, this was 24 cases, about a little more. But 1953, 400 cases. We didn't hear anything about them. Thank you, Patsy.
Yeah, no, it's true. And there's so many. Just look at how many that you have found, and just know how many more that are out there that people.
And I'm still working on this, by the way, because once you open the floodgates, more come. So.
Yes. Well, I think with your show, The Light Gate, of course, every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that's a great way to bring people forward. It really is. So, and
we're
there
having
you
so
are.
much fun with it. So thank you for helping us with that, because it's amazing.
Thank
I was
you.
like, I'm not sure I can do this, Dolly. My plate's full. She's like, let's do it. This will be good.
It's great. You do it every week on a Friday. It's the same thing. It's true. Only this time you're just, bringing other people to talk with you.
Yeah, we had fun with Malcolm Robinson. So amazing.
Yeah.
What a fun show. And Gerald Pratt.
Yeah.
Lovely man, having out-of-body experiences. These are our most recent two guests.
Yes.
We've got another great guy lined up for Monday.
Philip Mantle. He's wonderful. He's UK's the guy in the UK. Yeah. I think he
been at it longer than I have, so that's
he donated all of his files to an organization in the US. Actually, he's come on a couple of times to talk about it, but I mean, realistically, Pascagoula is the big one for him, but he's been researching this for like eons.
Yeah, one of the top 10 cases, easy in terms of people being taken on board.
Yes. It's interesting. It is one of the go-to stories as well. Especially people just getting into this. Just look up Pascagoula. It's just, especially for this side of the world. Whereas you're in the UK, you have Rendlesham, and this side of the world, it goes more than just Area 51. There's some pretty
name any town, I'll find one. I'm just saying.
Yeah, just email Preston. Give him a town. We should actually have a quiz. Or we should just have some kind of like contest or something. You guys come up with the most obscure place for Preston to find.
Oh, and torturing me.
Most obscure place, but not just obscure as in a location, but obscure as in a location with UFO stories.
Yeah,
I say do it. Then we could just bring that person.
No one's stumped me yet. My problem is someone picks, a big city or something. I'm like, are you kidding? I could write a book on this. This is going to take me forever.
Yeah.
Los Angeles. Okay. Well, I think I can find something in Los Angeles. New York.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Poor Preston. What do you mean?
Have pity on me.
Knock it off. Preston can handle it for sure. Well, you know what? I am so glad that you were on tonight. It was so much fun, and the stories are always so amazing. But I mean, you're coming back on, and this time it's going to be Preston and Dolly, but August the 6th. So it's a bit of a ways off, but mark your calendars because you know it's going to be good. But Dolly's joining me for an uncensored show Beyond the Outer Realm on July 15th. If you need a Dolly fix, there it is. So
Yeah, we
I
like
know,
uncensored.
I know, uncensored's good, kind of. You almost have to, sometimes you
You
have
look
to
a little
bury
nervous
them,
there.
but I know, but you know it's good. You know it's going to be good. And speaking of that, so next week, everybody, well, tomorrow night, actually, what am I carrying on about? Tomorrow night, we actually have Carol Ann Iadarola, who has Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. You can catch her on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern and also Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern. But she's going to be joining me tonight to talk about, we're going to be talking about death, the afterlife, grieving loss, and moving on. So it's going to be a pretty heavy show topic, but it's going to be an outstanding show topic. She's awesome. Tuesday on Beyond the Outer Realm, our spin-off show, Mark Ollie, all the way from UK, joins me again for more uncensored, forbidden knowledge. Might throw some Antarctica and Grand Canyon in there. It's going to be interesting. It always is when he joins me, and it's a lot of fun. It's really laid back. So thank you to everybody in the chat room. You guys totally rock. I always say you guys make it that much more fun. So, you know, thank you all. You have been catching the Outer Realm this evening with my dear friend, fellow, you know, host here at United Public Radio and, you know, the Light Gate. Don't miss that show. It's going to be a good one. Philip Mantle. God, he's awesome. He's just awesome. So you've been joining us on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We shall see you all tomorrow evening, at least my regulars. Any newbies that would like to join us, always welcome. Much loved and appreciated. So thank you all and good night.
Bye.